Bonjour. I have for you the worst news ever and the best news ever. Starting with the best news, I have to tell you, you are alive. You are living, you are breathing, loving, speaking, eating. It's a good news, isn't it? There's a bad news as well. You are living, and you don't know what it means, what are the constraints, and what being alive, and what being part of nature biologically allows you to do. You don't know that. You don't know the way to use your living beings and your way to live to act better. Better for you, better for the others, better for the future, better for nature. We are ignorant. We believe a lot in technologies. We believe a lot in chemistry. But life, we're living. Things are alive around us and we don't use that. You want an example of that? I will discuss with you wastes. You know those things that are useless and that we produce and they look bad, like of no use, or even dangerous, the wastes. Wastes. Being alive means you are producing waste. We sometimes think that human beings are very special because they produce plastic waste, dropping waste, etc. But being alive means you produce waste. Look at this nest. After the nest is abandoned, the birds, they don't recycle the nest. They drop it as a waste and they leave it like that. They produce waste as well. Look at those plants. They do produce waste as well. Look at all the dead leaves, the dead trunks and everything. They produce waste. They produce even one that you know very well. They produce oxygen, which is just a waste they spread in the air. You breathe that, by the way. That's just urine of plant, in a way. That's a waste product of plant, oxygen. And they drop it as well. Being alive means you are doing wastes. Well, of course, the nest, the oxygen, or the dead leaves here, they all will be recycled. So in a way, those wastes are not so dangerous because they will disappear and be used by other animals or other microbes or other plants. Yes. But the problem is that it's because those are old waste. They were there for a long time. Let me show you what happens when oxygen started to be produced. In early Earth, there was no oxygen. Oxygen started to accumulate when there was the beginning of photosynthesis. And at that time, no one was resistant to oxygen. Oxygen is a violent oxidant. It's making free radicals. It's very dangerous for life. And as a result, at the time, it was a disaster. Many organisms went to death because of oxygen production that was toxic. Plus, oxygen was oxidizing iron. And in the ocean, where the life was at the time, that time it's 2 billion years ago. In the oceans where there was the early life, all the iron went oxidized. So there was no more iron in the water because everything precipitated at the bottom of the ocean. As a result, after this event 2 billion years ago, there was a time for 1 billion of years after that, between 2 and 1 billion years ago, where there was what the paleontologists called the boring billion. Because over this billion of years, there was very few life, so toxic was the oxygen, very few evolution. And finally, at the end of this additional billion of years, some species evolved, like your ancestors, that first tolerate oxygen, and second, use it. Your ancestors, they use oxygen to breathe, exactly as you breathe yourself. But it's secondary. So, let me come to the final conclusion of this first section of my talk. Being alive is to produce waste, and old wastes, they selected users. Okay, now let's come to the second part of my talk. We who are producing now very new wastes that were never there before, because we produce molecules or things that were not in the biosphere before, such as plastics, for example. It's a human invention. Those molecules that do not exist before, we used to call them xenobiotics. Xeno, external, biotics, to life. Well, it's not a very nice word, but it means that those are new waste. Let me show you one example of that. Plastics. No one is eating plastics, except few microbes, but they are not very competitive, so in nature, plastics, they stay. The only thing they can do is to break into pieces, smaller and smaller pieces, and at the end of the day, so small pieces that we call them microplastic, any size below 1 millimeter. And they go on making pieces, and at the end of the day, they eventually release small molecules. Those microplastics are everywhere. All of you are eating each week 1 credit card of microplastic. By food, by simply breathing, or by water. 1 credit card each week. And it accumulates in you, breaking down into small molecules, some of which are neuroendocrinal perturbators. They act like your hormones and disturb you. And they are very bad for your health. For example, in your brain, over the last 10 years, the quantity of microplastic in the brain has been rising by 50%. What is the impact? We don't know it very well, but we know it's perturbating fertility. We know it's correlating to vascular accident, stroke. Yeah, the more you have it, the less your life will be long. We still don't know exactly the problem, but you are killed by that. And those microplastics, they are really a problem because it's not only a question of waste, 90% of the plastic is not recycled, but also the plastic during its life, during its use, like here, is releasing already microplastics. So even before being a waste, microplastics start to escape and start to kill you. Another example of xenobiotic is what we call the PFAS. Maybe you heard about that. It means there's pair and polyfluoroalkyl substances. They have a link between a fluoride atom and a carbon atom. This doesn't exist in the biosphere, so no organism is able to cut the link between fluoride and carbon. So they are also called forever chemicals because they stay. They cannot be modified. There's forever pollutants, I shall say. Those forever chemicals, all of you contain them because they are everywhere. They are in the frying pans to avoid that the food is attaching. They are in your impermeable clothes. They are in your cosmetics. They are in your toothpaste. They are absolutely everywhere. There is more than 9,000 different molecules used in the industry that belong to this family. And at the end of the day, they accumulate around you. Not only from the waste themselves, but also because those things, your clothes, your cosmetics, are just peeling to the environment. It's raining in the Antarctica, in the rain. There is more PFAS as a concentration than allowed in the drinking water in the States. In the rainwater of Antarctica. Can you believe it? It's everywhere. And it's very bad for the kidney, it's very bad for the reproduction, it's very bad for the liver, it's very bad for the brain. It's highly neurotoxic. It's carcinogenic, depending on which molecule you consider. It's a very bad news. And you know, this news, which is very, very bad, it's estimated in Europe that depolluting the most polluted area, not every area, but the most polluted one, will cost between 100 and 2,000 billion euros over 20 years. That means more than half of the budget of the European Union. Not feasible. It's also estimated for Europe still that the cost of illness induced by PFAS will be, on average per year, between 50 and 80 billion euro. I don't want to freak you too much, but it means that some of our waste, biologically, we can't afford it. It means that plastics and PFAS, we should avoid them as much as we can and limit them to the use which are absolutely necessary. It means that the newest wastes, they are not degraded, they are toxic for us. We should avoid them as much as we can. I think that's the first point. And this first point is a bit often the point that people say, those people with ecology or those biologists, they always tell us what we shouldn't do. And it's true, but it's not my fault. It's because you are alive. And there are some constraints for you to stay alive in good condition. Sorry, don't blame me. That's how you are. Blame your nature. But there is more. I showed you that being alive is producing waste. That some new molecules, those xenobiotics, it's not sustainable for us to produce that. It's not possible. But there is a good thing as the third part of my story. The third part of the story is that we are producing old brand, old style wastes. And those wastes, we need to use them as tools. You follow me? Where are we going? To the trash bin. And in the trash bin, we find those organic things. Every of you is producing between 100 and 150 kilograms of biological waste per year. The industry is also producing that. The gardens, the parks are also producing that. And this matter is something that is very important for soils to be alive and productive. If you put all well screened, of course you have to select it. If you put all that to the soil, this organic matter will take a long time to decay. You will store carbon, which is very good for climate, just by putting this waste in the fields, in the arable fields, for example. You store carbon, good for climate. But also this organic matter in the soil, it's like a sticking glue. It's gluing the pieces of soil, it's refraining the erosion. I remember you that in the South American country, 80% of arable fields are under pressure of excessive erosion. Plus, this organic matter is retaining, sucking the rainwater, which means that it's a way to retain water, especially under climate change, where there is potentially in some place less water in the spring and less water in the summer. So it's good also for water reserves. And finally, it's good to support the life of soil, in which there are some fungi, the one I studied, that are feeding the plants, helping the plant to feed, but for that, they need a living soil. So that's a solution. That's not the only solution I have to propose you. Let's now go to the toilets, please. In the toilets every day, you are wasting nitrogen and phosphorus in an unprecedented way at global level. Every of us is producing 11 grams of nitrogen per person a day, 0.7 grams of phosphorus, that is nearly 3.5 grams of phosphate. There is a bit less of nitrogen in the droppings, but still there is 0.5 gram of phosphorus. That's an enormous resource, because the other role of the waste, the organic waste in soil, and especially those, is a fertilizer. You are peeing fertility. You are dropping fertility. And do you use it? Years ago, yes. Nowadays, where does all this rich water from the city? To the water treatment plant. And then it goes as it can to the river and to the ocean. It's simply lost. Whereas it's a solution. Oh, you will tell me it's a bit difficult. Yes, for the droppings, there are bad bacteria in the droppings, so before using it in the field, you need a bit of composting or fermentation. But for the urine, it's nearly sterile. Believe the microbiologist, urine is a nearly sterile liquid. You can keep it, and not only you can keep it, but you can very specifically use it as a fertilizer, because if you put it on the leaves, the nitrogen and the phosphorus are absorbed by the leaves. So spray it. It's not a view from the spirit. In Paris, we start to have double toilets. what you pee goes there. What you poo goes there to the wastewater. But this is taken, stabilized to avoid decomposition and ammonia production, and goes to fertilize the fields. This way of producing fertilization, compared to mineral fertilizers, produce 3 times less glasshouse effect and cost twice less to the farmers. Pure solution, because you will pay less for wastewater treatment. Pure solution. By the way, there is a philosophical view. Your link to nature is not only how nature is doing things for you, but don't be so selfish. It's also the way you could do something for nature. And honestly, doing something for nature while you pee or make droppings, I can do it every day. I can do this every day. Do we do it? Of course, in the landscape, in the farms, they still do it a bit. But in the cities, we don't do it anymore. We just lost the link and our power. Where do I land after that? Where do I go? How to make this possible? I will tell you. We have to change the world. But how to change the world if you don't know the way to use it? How to incorporate nature and how biology and the biological constraints and the biological possibilities into the way to act? How to do that? Well, it's very simple. You will not do it if you don't know what are the possibilities. Maybe today you heard some things you didn't know, and so you are not very responsible not to do it because you didn't know. We are so ignorant of what nature is. We are so ignorant of biology, including our biology, that of course we take decisions that are not good for us. The solution is easy. Don't ask me, what shall I do tomorrow? Where shall I pee? Where shall I put my waste? Don't ask me that. Just think of teaching. Teaching. Teach the next generation what being alive means. What is the biology of things around us? What is the ecology of the systems where we're living? Teach. Make a generation that is able to take the solution not only from technology, not only from chemistry, but from life. To take nature-inspired solution. Do that. Do that quickly, because we consider biology as a secondary technical discipline. We don't teach it in-house. And the result of that is that when I come to you, I can tell you, living is the best and the worst news I can tell you. Please, and I pray for that. Make everything for the next generation to only find in biology constraints, yes, but also way of acting, way of producing, way of being healthy, tools, so that for the next generation, I will never be able to start a talk by saying, you are alive and this is the worst and the best news. Make it possible that it's only the best news for the next generation. Make possible that for this generation, nature, being alive, and our link to other living beings is a good news, a present, un cadeau. Thank you.